Okay, we're here at the Star Wars Family Fun Day at Elstree, and we are now with Sir Brian Muir, who was the sculptor of Darth Vader's helmet in the original trilogy. Brian, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, and it's lovely to be here at Elstree again after, well, we lived here for a long time and as kids, and then I started at Associated British Productions, which is Elstree Studios now, in 1968.
Wow. That is incredible. So you're local?
Yeah.
Because we're at Elstree Con, and obviously the first Star Wars was made in Elstree, so you're an Elstree boy.
I sure am.
And we're here at Elstree Con today. That is amazing. So with your experience, are there any names that we'd recognise that you worked with? Did you ever get to meet George Lucas? Did you? Yeah,
I did. George Lucas came up to see the progress on Darth Vader and the stormtroopers. There were two other characters that I did, which were these two here, the Death Star droid and CZ3. Mm-hmm. I also did all the finishing work on C-3PO.
Oh wow! Okay.
Which a lady called Liz Moore did the main sculpt. Then she left the picture, and I did all the finishing on it.
So how did you? Obviously, we're standing here now looking at the sculpt of Vader's helmet, the stormtroopers. It's fair to say that you could go anywhere in the world and show anyone that, and they know who it is. How did you get the gig of being Vader's helmet sculptor?
Well, I did my apprenticeship at Elstree. I was the only apprentice sculptor ever in the film industry. And when my apprenticeship ended, it was the film industry in this country was in such a bad way, I got made redundant the day I come out my apprenticeship.
Wow.
So I got a job at a company up in London, doing prestigious work all over London. I'd work unveiled by the Queen and Queen Mother. And then out of the blue, I had a phone call from the old guy I trained under, said, would I like to come back into the film industry. They had a science fiction film that they was starting at Elstree. They had some strange characters to do on it. So I said, yes, I'd like to come back into the industry, and arrived at Elstree in January 1976. And the first job I did was the stormtrooper armour.
Wow.
All the pieces echo the next piece, but they were done individually because they had to fit. They did 50 suits, so you couldn't do one size to fit some individual like did with Darth Vader.
Right.
They molded. In that case, they molded Dave Prowse, reproduced him in plaster, and then I sculpted on top of the plaster, knowing it would fit Dave. So I did the mask first. And I did a back and a front to the mask. But when Dave came to wear it, it was so claustrophobic in it, they got rid of the back, and he just had the front of the mask and the helmet attached to that. But you can't see that there's no back on it. But I also did the chest armour, the shoulder bells and the shins, which was all the hard parts on Vader, which they did 2 helmets. One as a backup and one that Dave wore through the whole film.
Wow.
And they would be locked away in the wardrobe every night, kept in a container. But
and at the time, a lot of people that were working on Star Wars, and I think George Lucas always said, particularly a lot of the British crew, thought it was just, the whole project was absurd. Like, it didn't make sense. It was almost crazy. Did you feel like that, or did you feel like it was special that it would become?
No, we all thought that it wouldn't be a success.
Yourself included?
Me included, yeah.
Wow.
And it wasn't until the following year, in 1977, in the summer, we went to the cruise showing up in London.
Yep.
And you see this huge spaceship come across the screen, and it had a ripple of applause. And then at the end of the film, this pessimistic film crew all stood up and gave it a round, standing ovation.
That's amazing.
And I've never seen it since, and I've worked on 70 major movies.
Wow.
And 10 Bond movies and so many others. And I've never seen it since. So it was pretty special, Star Wars. It was so far ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
and new technologies were created to make
that,
it
yeah.
work, ILM and that sort of thing. I mean, the film was all made back here, but the model work was all done back
Yeah,
out in America
that's right.
with
Well,
ILM.
You obviously did the original trilogy. How did it change the sculpting and the moulding from A New Hope to Empire to Return of the Jedi? Did the techniques change? Did it become easier as you went along
They weren't new here. It was the same helmet
for the whole way through?
with minor changes.
Okay.
With Empire Strikes Back, the chin vent, they made it a bit bigger to give Dave Prowse more air. And the Widow's Peak that comes down to a point, that was filed across. And that was the only changes. And a different paint finish on Empire. It was polished off, and because on New Hope it's supposed to be battle scarred and aged, but it was all polished and finished on Empire. That was the other change, which I was never involved with because it goes to another department, and a guy called Ron Punter did the original paintwork. So on the third one they just filled in a little V on the strip that comes across the top, and they were the only minor which were done by the plasterers, so it wasn't a resculpt in any way.
Wow.
And then it was resculpted on for the Sith. Revenge of the Sith, it was resculpted, it was shorter, flared, and they did it on with a computer, whereas it was asymmetrical. What I did, deliberately took one cheek up and one slightly down, and to give it character. George Lucas decided he wanted it absolutely symmetrical, so he did it all on a computer. And whereas I did it all by myself in about 3-4 weeks, they had 6 guys working on it for 2 months.
Wow.
That one.
You wouldn't have thought.
No,
you wouldn't have thought it would take that many people that long to do it in comparison.
No, not at all. Well, Brian, this has been absolutely brilliant talking to you. No, we're busy. You're a busy guy. You're going to go see family now. So thank you so much for talking to us, Brian.
Thank you very much. Bye then.